The number one benefit of fasting is something very different from what most people might think. The number one benefit of fasting happens to be a hormone that is produced. Now, this hunger hormone is normally catching a bad rap. It's called ghrelin. Now, ghrelin, just the name of it sounds scary. And if ghrelin goes too far, then sure, it can make you ravenously hungry. You don't want chronically high ghrelin levels. But when we are fasting, ghrelin is one of the reasons why we adapt and get benefits from fasting rather than just crash and ultimately die. Now, the first thing that I need to address is going to be one surrounding autophagy. This is very interesting because people think about autophagy with fasting and they think about the cellular recycling, and that is all great. But there's something very important that you need to know, so we're gonna dive in. You have to check out Boncharge's infrared sauna blanket after this video. Not a lot of people have room to put a sauna in. It's kind of a pain in the butt. I love having my sauna, but I had to run a continuous circuit for it. I had to run a dedicated electrical circuit. That costs money, that takes time, that takes space. A nice infrared sauna blanket is totally portable, and this Boncharge one has very low EMF. In fact, they were kind of surveying around, they found it's the lowest EMF on the market, but also it gets up to 176 degrees, and since you're laying inside of a blanket, you're right next, really close to the infrared light, which means that you're getting a bigger effect than if you were further proximity in a standing infrared sauna, like a regular sitting one. I think the best part about it is the fact that you can travel with it. You may not want to bring it on a plane, but if you're going on a road trip or something like that, it's easy to pack in your car. It fits in something, you know, a couple feet. It just kind of like rolls together. But you get all the benefits of a sauna. You get that better recovery. You get that better sleep that a lot of times comes with sauna. You get those heat shock protein effects. So I definitely recommend. So there's a special link and a code down below that'll save you some cashola if you want to try this one out. Definitely recommend. I've tried a lot of them, and a lot of them are flimsy and cumbersome. I love the quality of this Boncharge one. It's easy to open up and scrub clean if you got really sweaty in it too, so it's not nasty. That's what I really like about it. So the link down below, already a great price, plus if you use that special code, you can save even more. So check out Boncharge's infrared blanket down below in the description. Autophagy isn't just there because it sounds cool and it does fun things. It has a purpose. Okay, autophagy breaks down proteins and components of cells into fuel that gets converted into glucose. Okay, so it gets converted into sugar for our body to use. So an old protein will break down and it will turn into a sugar the body can use. There's some interesting evidence that mice that were unable to produce ghrelin, the hunger hormone, well, when they ended up going into a fast, they died because they were not able to go through the same autophagy that mice that had ghrelin were able to. So what does this mean to you as someone that's fasting? It means that that little bit of hunger that you feel when you're fasting is actually a good thing. A lot of times we associate hunger as a negative thing, but being a little bit hungry and being okay with that means that that ghrelin is elevating. Now, ghrelin will elevate and it will send a signal to the hypothalamus to certainly make you hungry. Okay, but another thing that it does in addition to that, or a number of things that it does, is it triggers adaptation. And probably the biggest benefit to fasting is the muscle preservation piece. People don't realize that when you are fasting, you preserve muscle, okay, because you produce more growth hormone. Now, interestingly enough, the reason that people that talk about fasting get shot down so much on YouTube and the internet is because sometimes they take these benefits and they stretch them too far, okay? So yes, when you are fasting, growth hormone elevates, but it doesn't elevate to the point where you can build endless muscle. It's not like that. It's purely a survival system, okay? So muscle is very metabolically important to the body and it doesn't want to burn it unless it has to. So while we're fasting, our body does whatever it can to produce, or protect, I should say, more of our muscle. One of the ways that it does this is by increasing growth hormone levels. Well, what we've seen in the research is that if ghrelin cannot be produced, then growth hormone doesn't increase with a fast. So being a little bit hungry is what is driving this growth hormone response in order to protect muscle. There was a study that was done on humans that looked at 65 different humans, okay, and they gave them a ghrelin hormone analog, so basically a synthetic analog, a synthetic form of ghrelin. Okay, they did this for 2 years. Compared to people that did not have the synthetic ghrelin, these people built more muscle, 1.1 kilograms more muscle at 2 years. They had higher circulating growth hormone, and they didn't gain any fat or any visceral fat. So ghrelin is critical to growth hormone, which means that ghrelin is critical to fasting because ghrelin is what's going to protect your muscle while you're fasting. But again, it also is what's going to drive autophagy. It's what's going to drive a lot of these brain benefits. So we think it's the simple act of not eating. However, it's the simple act of not eating triggering this powerful hormone, this powerful ghrelin hormone that everyone likes to bag on. So are there some ways that you can increase ghrelin even more when you're fasting? Well, the simplest way is going to be to eat a small meal prior to going into your fast. It's going to, ensure that your ghrelin levels are a little bit higher. The other things that you want to do is you want to exercise a little bit during your fast, okay? Because exercise can increase ghrelin a little bit because it's creating a demand. Okay, so if you exercise during your fast, especially when you're a little bit hungry, it can actually make you not as hungry because it can kind of blunt the feelings, but it can also drive the benefits of this ghrelin a little bit more. So when you look at the big picture of what ghrelin responds to, we notice that fat tends to attenuate the ghrelin response, protein tends to attenuate the ghrelin response, which is great for satiety, okay? But if you're satiated all the time, you're not burning as much fat. So one of the things I want to warn you about is if you start getting to a point where you're fasting a lot and you're no longer hungry when you fast, it sounds crazy, but it might be time to take a day off. It might be time to take a few days off of fasting or even a couple of weeks so that when you do fast, you get more of a benefit from it. You see what I'm saying? You want to be a little bit hungry during your fast. That is the #1 benefit of fasting, is being hungry and the benefits that come with being hungry. It's an easier way to make yourself hungry than just going through caloric restriction all the time. So let yourself take a break from fasting so that when you go back to fasting, it can have the power that really makes it the best possible thing for you. So as always, keep it locked in here on my channel. I'll see you tomorrow.